Hello and welcome to the virtual V&A. I'm Kate Bailey, lead curator of Alice, Curiouser and Curiouser. This is an amazing opportunity to show you in this virtual environment a sneak preview of a major V&A exhibition which will open next March. This event marks tickets on sale today. The exhibition looks at the impact and legacy of Alice across time and discipline, from the creation of the original story written by Lewis Carroll to its popular appeal across art, film, fashion, photography and performance. Like the V&A, the Alice books are over 150 years old, and Alice has touched every part of our collections. Alice has been a great catalyst for imagination and ingenuity, and a source of inspiration for the most creative minds. The exhibition will trace the origins of the story, showing how books continue to inspire creativity across science and art. Alice is a universal icon, and the book, translated into over 170 languages, has been a pioneering subject for the exploration of new technologies, so it feels very fitting that we should be celebrating Alice in the media of VR. To create the immersive V&A exhibition, we have been working alongside a creative team that includes Tom Piper, theatre designer, Alan Farley, RFK architects, Gareth Fry, sound designer, Luke Halls, video designer, Zelina Hughes, lighting designer, and last but not least, our exciting partnership with HTC and Preloaded to bring a virtual wonderland to you today through VR, a new digital frontier for the V&A. Together we have taken the empty Sainsbury Gallery and transformed it into a wonderland. The Sainsbury Gallery is the perfect subterranean space to create a wonderland. The exhibition staircase is the rabbit hole and provides the visitor with a transition from real to imaginary worlds. Visitors will be able to follow an adventure through the books across 5 different sections: creating, filming, reimagining, staging and being Alice. On their journey, they can encounter iconic moments from the stories and discover more about the power and relevance of Alice across media and time. They will discover an explosion of creativity and imagination. This set model of the exhibition shows the different worlds that the visitor will encounter on their adventure. It gives you a sense of how the physical world will be created in the empty gallery. Here in this space, I will take you through the first section, Creating Alice, where we transport you back to Oxford, the location of the original story. We will reveal how this famous tale, written by Lewis Carroll, was inspired by Alice Liddell, daughter of his friend, the Dean of Christ Church. Lewis Carroll first told the story of Alice's adventures to Alice and her sisters in 1862 on a July afternoon in a rowing boat on the river in Oxford. On display will be the original manuscript and drawings. Beautiful handwritten illustrations reveal the origins of the tale, which go on to be one of the most popular stories in the world. The exhibition space will give the impression of an Oxford-inspired setting where we will introduce the main protagonist, the Victorian context and the creative process. Alice Liddell, seen here at 7 years old, lived with her family at the university. We consider how a young, curious girl surrounded by knowledge and scholars became the subject for one of the first Victorian children's books. Visitors will find themselves in a world that evokes the libraries and iconic architecture of Christchurch. Here we will examine the Victorian context of the creation of the books and look at objects, including many from the V&A's collection, that reflect the themes and ideas in Lewis Carroll's text, from science to art, time to travel, theatre to politics. Visitors will see a peep show that plays with perspective from the Great Exhibition in 1851 and the skeleton of the dodo on loan from the Natural History Museum in Oxford. We introduce visitors to a range of subjects such as natural history, psychology and logic before they begin their own curious adventure through Wonderland. Lewis Carroll was a mathematician studying at Christchurch, but was also fascinated by stories and games. He invented this rather fun game as a teenager. It's called Ways and Means, and it was a game to entertain his siblings, revealing his interest in humour, adventures and logic. In this section, we will also examine Carroll's mission to publish the book, showing how he had an eye for detail in the design of the publication and how he worked with Macmillan to publish the first edition in 1865. Carroll commissioned John Tenniel, the renowned Punch cartoonist, to illustrate his text. This was to be a bold and brilliant move, engaging the best illustrator of the time. Tenniel was highly skilled at drawing characters and conveying humour and politics. He brought his craft, expertise and imagination to build the Alice in Wonderland which we know and love today. We will display the detail and planning that went into the development of the characters, such as the White Rabbit and the Ugly Duchess, and reveal many works from the V&A's own outstanding Tenniel collection. This is a journey of creativity, commissioning and publishing, as well as a celebration of imagination. It will reveal how Carroll designed the layout for the original publication, including the choice of colour for the cover, and even this page design where the playful text shows the shape of the mouse's tail on the page. This precision, together with Tenniel's visual imagination, created the iconic illustrated adventure that has been read the world over. We will also examine how Tenniel's drawings are engraved by the Dalziel brothers onto woodblocks, which are then in turn printed for the publication. The exhibition also celebrates Lewis Carroll's sequel to Alice's Adventures, Through the Looking Glass, and what Alice found there. Reflecting the popularity of Alice's Adventures, Carroll set to work on this story, which was illustrated by John Tenniel and published in 1871. In this section, we see how Alice matures and encounters different characters, including Humpty Dumpty, a familiar Victorian character, the red and white queens from the game of chess, and the monstrous Jabberwocky. We see how Alice steps through the mirror to a world on the other side, introducing powerful ideas in the text that will become the springboard for many future reimaginings. At the end of this section, we come to the close of the Victorian era, the end of the 19th century, and we meet again Alice Liddell. Here, the real Alice is a woman, captured here by Julia Margaret Cameron, a pioneer in early photography. Alice Liddell was photographed on the Isle of Wight alongside many other Victorian artists who were part of this royal, cultural and social scene. In this striking image of Alice dressed as Pomona, Roman goddess, we see a strong woman with a confronting gaze. Arguably, without Alice, there would be no Wonderland. By 1900, we see how the books are translated across the world, from Japan to Germany, and how the stories are interpreted for the stage. Alice has universal appeal across cultures and societies, and is fast becoming a great figurehead for the new century. We also see how the Alice brand, with Tenniel's powerful imagery, is translated onto merchandise and magic lanterns, a popular form of entertainment. What we are looking at here is some of the original V&A Magic Lantern slides, which have been digitized, colorized and animated, brought to life by Luke Hall's video designer. In the exhibition, these magic lantern slides surround a hallway of doors which will take visitors into the second chapter of the exhibition story, Filming Alice. We transitioned this new section through a specially creative installation, The Pool of Tears. Created by Luke Halls, this immersive environment takes us from the book into the movies as we arrive in a new setting in which to celebrate Alice on film. In this second chapter of the exhibition, designer Tom Piper has created a Victorian pier to present a variety of different film interpretations. In Filming Alice, we explore how the Alice books are disseminated across the globe through film, popular entertainment for the new century. We see how the stories, with their wild ideas of transformation and portals for other universes and quirky animal characters, are the perfect platform for directors to experiment with this new technology. In Alice Curiouser and Curiouser, our pier will transform from a pier to a roller coaster to a caterpillar, celebrating Wonderland's curious and infinite possibilities. It will also include playful interactives, which allow our visitors to experiment with scale and mirrors. Within this section, we look at how across the 20th century, Alice has inspired a variety of different film directors and designers across different countries and cultures. Beginning with Cecil Hepworth's groundbreaking silent movie from 1903, this eccentric black and white interpretation of the Alice books is a milestone in the development of the British film industry. We see how Hepworth creates imaginative costumes for the actors and experiments with film effects, stage sets and scale. We then consider how early Hollywood cinema embraces Alice with 3 different directors bringing Alice to life in 3 different ways. Dallas Bauer, MacLeod and W.W. Young adapt the narrative, giving Alice a new look and a voice in the first talkies. We will show the same scene playing out simultaneously, bringing Alice to life in these different ways. Here you can see an excerpt from Dallas Bauer's 1949 production, where Alice is reimagined with stop-motion puppets created by Lou Bounan. At this moment, we will also link back to the real Alice. Alice Liddell made her journey to America in the 1930s and is treated as a celebrity. This contributes to the ongoing success of Alice worldwide and demonstrates the fascination with the books in the US. Their universal appeal is strengthened by the real Alice's journey to the country. Then we look at the creation of Disney's iconic movies. The studio began working on Alice in the 1930s. There were various iterations in the creative development, with Disney inviting Aldous Huxley to create a script, while Salvador Dali was experimenting in the studio with his film Destino. But eventually, it is Mary Blair who creates the aesthetic for the 1951 Alice. We are delighted to be working with Disney, who are lending the Alice designs from their archive to the exhibition. These vibrant designs define the colourful animations and bring new life to the characters. We see how Blair's Alice in her blue dress is inspired by fashionable Dior style and discover how this modern Alice will become one of the world's most recognisable animation characters. Alongside the 1951 version, we will showcase the more recent Alice in Wonderland with Tim Burton's 2010 Alice, designed by Colleen Atwood. Visitors will discover how this film imagined Alice for a new generation, revealing Alice as a warrior, a superhero. She embraces Wonderland, taking on any challenges ahead of her. Atwood shows Alice in armour, ready to fight the Jabberwocky. We examine here how and why Alice becomes a role model for the 21st century, and very importantly, we also see how Alice becomes a global icon through international films. Beyond the West, Alice is a source of inspiration for different interpretations, from the Japanese anime films to Jan Svankmeyer's dark and mysterious stop-motion puppet Alice, to films that use the Alice story as a way of addressing political issues from Argentina to Russia. We will present clips from the movies in a playful environment and give a sense of the continuing influence of this story across the globe. Arriving in section 3, we are now taking you into another distinct world, 100 years from the original publication. Visitors will be in a space that echoes the 1960s and psychedelia, in a gallery that will reveal how the Alice books and concepts have inspired the visual arts. In this chapter, we will look at the diverse range of reimaginings and consider why in the 1960s, particularly in the UK and the US, the books take on a new fascination and inspire visual artists from the surrealists to the psychedelics. We begin by looking at how Lewis Carroll's drawings inspired the surrealists, how the ideas in the books of dreams, portals and transformation appealed to the experimental work of the British and American surrealists. Edward Burroughs' representation of a female figure surrounded by hallways and doorways evokes an Alice world. John Armstrong's dreaming head painting situates an Alice-like face in a British landscape. Max Ernst regularly references the Alice books in his works. Here, his dramatic chess piece sculpture shows the king towering over the queen. We also examine how the books tackle some challenging themes, from growing up to madness. Salvador Dali illustrated the Alice book in 1968, creating surrealist interpretations of the chapters. In The Tea Party, the melting clock becomes the table circled by butterflies. In The Advice from a Caterpillar, a floating, multicolored caterpillar dominates the image. His distinctive trippy style leads us into the psychedelic world of Alice in the 60s, where visitors will be transported into a distorted environment where the Cheshire Cat will appear and disappear. They will see works including this poster design by East Totem West, a collective in San Francisco that took familiar Alice motifs like the cat and the rabbit and translated them into their own distinctive, colourful graphic style. Back to the British interpretations, we will show Peter Blake's bold, modern Alice in the walled garden with her assertive gaze, alongside Ralph Steadman's witty, satirical interpretations of the characters. This explosion of creativity will reveal how and why the themes of the book engage with counterculture artists and musicians, from hippies on the West Coast to the Beatles. The Beatles drew inspiration from The Looking Glass for their international hit, I'm a Walrus. In the exhibition, we will present a V&A take on the Mad Tea Party. In this experience, we have been inspired by Jonathan Miller's film of Alice and 60s art. Commissioned by the BBC as a Christmas movie, Miller's interpretation takes us back to the Victorian context of the original books and reveals how the story appeals to adults and children. Viewers are taken on a bizarre, dreamlike journey where Alice transitions and encounters animal characters inspired by Oxford scholars. Exhibits around the Tea Party will show different ideas of consuming Alice and how the books have inspired creativity in food. We discover how Alice has sold biscuits and Guinness, and how the book has triggered a deeper fascination with the Victorian Tea Party. We will celebrate here the innovative recipes created by Chef Heston Blumenthal, whose mantra is to make the world more curious. His curiosity and intrigue in science and art has resulted in an Alice-inspired menu that includes a mock turtle soup, where a gold pocket watch in a magical teapot becomes a delicious soup. Within this environment, visitors can join the V&A Alice Tea Party. They can participate in a specially created, projected, interactive environment that allows you to play with riddles, try to beat time, and spot the dormouse. You will be able to interact with immersive projections that have been inspired by the works of 60s artists, whilst listening to the sitar music of Ravi Shankar, soundtrack to Jonathan Miller's Alice film. The fourth chapter looks at staging Alice and is an opportunity to explore how the books have inspired wonderlands from across the political stage to the fantastical, from the physical to the virtual. We can see how John Tenniel's original characters and Carroll's text create brilliant stimulus for political cartoons, from Tenniel's Alice in Blunderland in 1880 to the Unity Theatre's 1945 adaptation Alice in Thunderland for the Workers' Theatre, and the Royal Court's 1973 production of Alice in Blunderland. Wonderland is regularly a metaphor and a concept that has brought a diverse range of performances in all genres. Here we see representations on the physical stage with ballet costumes created by Bob Crowley for the Royal Opera House Ballet, the amazing Red Queen with her towering costume inspired by hearts and armour, and the wonderful costumes designed by Katrina Lindsay, National Theatre's Wonder.Land musical by Rufus McNorris, Moira Buffini and Damon Albarn. A fashion-inspired White Rabbit and a bold, futuristic Alice avatar. In staging Alice, visitors can also enter the virtual stage as a result of an extraordinary collaboration facilitated by HTC to bring a virtual experience into the exhibition. To develop this, we looked at the media of VR and considered how we could create opportunities that were more difficult to create in the real world, and embraced ideas where Alice has agency and also changes in size. Visitors will be transported through mirror-like portals and will interact with the book's famous characters and test their skill against the Red Queen in a curious game of croquet like no other. Here you will play croquet in the Queen's Garden, where you can interact with flamingos and hedgehogs, challenge the Queen, paint the roses red. In a virtual wonderland, curiosity, rewards, and anything is possible. This new VR experience will be based on Icelandic artist Christiana Williams' specially commissioned illustrations for the exhibition's publication. In our final chapter, Being Alice, we examine why and how Alice is relevant in the 21st century and how the stories and characters have been picked up across different art forms, in particular through fashion, pop music and photography, and across science and art. We consider how no one is too small to make a difference and how anyone can be Alice. Her spirit of self-discovery, exploration, and speaking truth to power make her a modern-day heroine. The exhibition will celebrate a diverse range of reimaginings and feature works that interrogate big concepts from the book, including space, time, and scale. We will display works created for Annie Leibovitz's Vogue shoot. We will show how Vivienne Westwood engages with Alice, translating motifs and texts from the books into political statements and catwalk fashion. Westwood adds a contemporary twist to a Victorian idea. Wonderland as a catwalk subject is also seen through a cluster of Mad Hatters, a style that has become synonymous with English eccentricity. Top hats and Victorian fashion have inspired looks created by Tom Brown, Victor and Rolf, and Stephen Jones. Being Alice will also include a section which examines the fascination with Alice in Japan, how the Lolita schoolgirl look adapts an Alice style as a way of dressing and being, from punk to sweet Lolita interpretations, seen here by fashion designers Kumiko Uehara and Yosuke. We will also reveal how the Alice books are universal and how the character can be adapted across cultures. In 2018, photographer Tim Walker created an interpretation of Alice for Pirelli that embraced diversity and the idea that all races can find themselves in the story, with P. Diddy, Whoopi Goldberg, and RuPaul all taking on roles. We celebrate how Alice, with her strong character and resilience, can overcome adversity and change, and is a powerful inspiration for many contemporary artists, including musician Little Simz, whose Stillness in Wonderland album reveals how the artist looked to the books as a metaphor for growing up in London. adapting the story into a real urban landscape, seen here with the imaginative artwork by Mackay Felt. Returning to themes of science and art introduced at the beginning of our adventure into Wonderland, we will reveal how designers, artists and scientists continue to return to the book as a jumping off point for their own imaginations and as a way of exploring big ideas. Here you can see a remarkable creation by Iris van Herpen, a visiting artist at CERN, home of the Hadron Collider in Switzerland. Van Herpen's work experiments with materiality, time and space. Here, this dress suggests a modern-day Alice, floating in a kinetic sculpture created by Anthony Howe. The sculpture surrounds Alice as a halo, a portal. In Alice Curiouser and Curiouser, we see how Alice has travelled from rabbit holes to black holes, changed in size and encountered often nonsensical universes. Alice, like a quantum scientist, is asking questions of her universe and seeking answers to the unexplained. As a finale to the exhibition, visitors will leave through the looking glass, and I'm delighted to reveal here images of an immersive experience that we are creating. Here we will set the original quotes from the books in a contemporary, reflected, mirrored environment. You will be able to think about your journey and to be Alice. Who are you? What's your curiosity? Imagine your wonderland. Alice is a mantra for discovery, learning and curiosity. And after your visit, you can return to the wonderland of the V&A. And if your curiosity can't wait until March 2021, we have an extended at-home VR experience available to download on the Viveport platform from today. Thank you very much for listening. We look forward to welcoming you to the V&A for the Alice exhibition experience.